Welcome to week 20. I don't have enough fingers for that. Welcome to week 20 out of 20 of building the healthiest version of me. And I haven't filmed a YouTube video for ages. So apologies for that. So I have literally just sat and watched all the reels over the last 20 weeks to try and decide exactly what to talk about in this video. And my last 3 videos have been kind of a reflection on the last 20 weeks, which is what I want to do in this YouTube video. But as I started making notes, I realised there were so many things that I could talk about, so I'm going to try and just pick and choose a few. And if I go back to my very first video, the main aims of the 20 weeks was obviously building the healthiest version of me, and we're going to kind of look at what that involved. And then also kind of content consistency. Now, 20 weeks is a long time to be consistent, and I wouldn't say I did a bad job. Definitely could have done better. I definitely skipped a few weeks. There were some where I was playing catch up. I didn't have kind of a routine of posting. And it's just so hard to do if you don't necessarily know what times you have to be able to edit and upload, for example. So I did an okay job with that. I also, when I posted that very first reel, I hadn't yet decided if I was going to do YouTube, and can definitely say that the consistency with YouTube was a lot worse than with Instagram. But I am happy that I have managed to get a handful of these videos out and talk through my training and my nutrition and various other topics that require these kind of longer sit-down videos. I have had a couple of people say that these would make better for podcasts because I am obviously just sat talking. And I would love to do a podcast. I just think I don't have enough topics to talk about, but you never know what could happen. When we're looking at building the healthiest version of me, I kind of broke this down into like the small habits of nutrition, obviously my powerlifting. I also basically started my running journey at the beginning of this, or just before this series, and then there are like a couple of points around weight gain that I've touched on, and then in my most recent post, which isn't within this series but has definitely been progressing during this series, I've touched on the progress that I've made with my skin, which I might go into a little bit more detail on here. Looking at nutrition, I started the series by just wanting to make sure that my breakfasts were a little bit healthier. I previously for breakfast would have either the Fuel like granola cereal, which is a good choice apart from how high in calories it is for what it is. So I wouldn't be feeling full for long basically. Or I would be having like porridge, which again, fine, but I would find that I wasn't feeling full for long. So when I kind of say I wanted a healthier breakfast, I think what I was more aiming for was something that would keep me full for longer. And I have very consistently been having scrambled eggs with bacon and a bagel, either topped with peanut butter and banana or just on its own with a different piece of fruit on the side. Hello. I think if you'd asked me at the start of the 20 weeks if I had any other nutrition goals, I probably wouldn't come up with anything. I was just focusing on eating well first thing in the morning. So in that sense, I completely ticked that off. As the weeks went on, there were more things that I wanted to work on. I started taking electrolytes somewhere within the first few weeks, and I wanted to see if they would benefit me and my lifestyle, and I have actually decided to keep those in my daily habits, alongside my usual supplements of creatine, omega-3 and vitamin D. which are very consistent throughout as well. So in terms of supplements, that is where I'm at with that, and I hadn't even considered electrolytes at the start of the 20 weeks. I have continued meal prepping, which will just be forever whilst I work. Next year I do want to have a look at different meals that I can make for myself and potentially use as meal prep, because I get bored super quickly. But then I think one of the biggest things that I wasn't expecting to ever do, but has been a super positive thing for me, which I have touched on in a previous video, is tracking on the weekends. So once I had signed up for a comp at the end of the year, I looked at weighing myself regularly just to work out what my weight was doing, and I quickly noticed the fluctuation either side of a weekend. So I was probably my lightest on a Friday and my heaviest on a Monday, so was fluctuating over what I was eating at the weekend. So I decided just to start tracking, just because in my mind I was basically thinking I'm pretty much eating the same as I would in the week, and then just potentially having like something sweet in the evening of a weekend if I'm like watching a film or whatever, out for dinner or whatever. So I started tracking just to kind of have a look at why that was happening, and actually realised that this is potentially one of the best things I have done in terms of my nutrition. I quickly realised that I wasn't eating enough, and then I was basically topping it up with sweet things at the end of the day. So I hadn't hit macros in terms of eating enough like protein, carbs, etc. And then was using that to then eat loads in the evening that was perhaps a little bit more unhealthy. And I guess like when you say it back now, you're like, well yeah, of course that's like not the healthiest thing to do. But you can very quickly be like, well, I'm only doing it on like a Saturday, so it's fine. And I want to be the healthiest version of me, so that is something that I wanted to change. And I very quickly, after deciding to track on the weekends, kind of just stopped buying chocolate predominantly, biscuits in there as well. And as I slowly kind of stopped consuming those kind of things, I felt so much better in myself. My energy levels just felt a lot better over the weekends, and yeah, I had a couple of weekends where I was kind of off track and would snack or eat chocolate, and then on the Sunday I would feel really low in energy, feel quite sick, just really not enjoy my day. And I was probably feeling like that every weekend without linking the two together, and just thinking I felt pretty run down from the week that I'd had at work. So that was a really positive change for me. And then I think the decrease in chocolate consumption has also then had a positive effect on my skin as well, alongside other things, but I do think that is a factor that has helped. So in terms of nutrition, they're the biggest things. I think my first goal was just around breakfast, and I've definitely smashed that. I've now, as I said, introduced electrolytes, which I think is definitely helping with my hydration and staying hydrated. And tracking at the weekends has also been a positive change that I didn't realise would be. And obviously everybody has very different relationships with tracking food, and I thought giving myself the break at the weekend would be a good thing, but actually I just like knowing what I'm eating and knowing that I'm eating what I should be without having to really think about it. Once I put my day into my phone, then I know what I need to eat for that day and I don't have to think about it, and it's all sorted, and I know that I'm fueling my body to feel its best, which is all I'm after at the minute. So that is my nutrition update. And then if we look at my powerlifting, I am still training 3 times a week. That will stay the same. I did a couple of reels that was comparing my lifts. They were like 4-year or 3-year transformations, and looking back at those videos was crazy for me. I think it's really easy to feel like you haven't made progress in a really long time, and it really accumulates. So looking back years ago, you can really see the massive difference. But even when I'm looking back at the videos from the start of these 20 weeks, there are some huge differences there as well. And I think one of the weeks I touched on the fact that my bench and my deadlifts were having a few form changes, and we were focusing on different cues. And even looking at videos from before those changes to now, which can't be more, it must be like 10, 12, like maybe 3 months difference, and I can really see the difference between those. So that's a really positive thing to just look back. And I think on my reflection video towards the end of the series, I did kind of say that I really encourage you to just go and look back at old videos, because you'll feel that you've come a lot further than you potentially think you have. And it's a really easy thing to do. Just go and watch a couple of videos and you'll realize how much you're smashing it. And yeah, I've really liked doing that. I, as I've mentioned, am now preparing to compete, and we are now like 3 weeks away, I think. I'm feeling super excited. I'm trying not to get too nervous, but that will definitely come. I know that whatever I lift, I'm going to be happy with, because I'm definitely going to get some PBs in there, which will be nice. And I've definitely come a super long way since competing last year. My training is definitely in the best place it's ever been. When I competed last year, following that, quickly kind of lost my structure with training, didn't feel like I was 100% in it. I was dealing with a lot in my personal life anyway, but I just really let my training slip. And I would say in the last 20 weeks, I have absolutely smashed it. I feel like every session I'm going in and doing my absolute best and coming out feeling really positive. So I'm really, really happy with how my training is, and I'm so excited to see what happens at comp. And then finally, my kind of running update. I must have started running a couple of weeks before I started this series, and I was just aiming to do 1 run a week, whatever I was kind of feeling like. It was a little bit unstructured, and throughout the 20 weeks I have put together a little plan and been running twice a week, once doing intervals and the second run being a continuous run. And over the last couple of weeks I've kind of been trying to run to different London parks and have that as something kind of interesting to do. I have put a pause on running slightly whilst I'm in the last couple of weeks of comp prep, just because I've been slightly ill and I just wanted to use all my energy for my powerlifting sessions. And I just think I want my body to not have too much to have to deal with, basically. But I have actually slightly started to enjoy the running side of things. I can definitely see the progress coming, which is a really good motivation, I think. And I can't believe I've actually stuck to it. So feeling really positive about all aspects of my training. And I would genuinely say that everything I have done in this time has brought me to being as healthy as I can be. My nutrition is definitely the best it's ever been, and with that, as I touched on in a previous post, I have gained weight this year. So between my last competition and this one will be about a 5 kilogram difference, which has been something to get my mind set like around, but is definitely for the better. And I definitely think I am healthier at this weight with a little bit more on the scales than I was previously. So feeling like my nutrition and my weight are definitely in the best place possible. My powerlifting is just getting better week on week, and as I said, I'm so excited to compete and see what that brings. And then the fact that I've actually continued running and stuck to it is a huge achievement for me. It shows me that even doing something that I don't really enjoy but can see the benefits from, and that I can actually stick to that, is a place that I just didn't think I would be. I have tried running so many times and never stuck to it for more than a couple of weeks. So the fact that we're like 6+ months in is a huge thing. Not that it will ever override my powerlifting, because that definitely always comes first. And then sharing all of this progress obviously means that I have been somewhat consistent with content, obviously not as good as can be, but definitely good for me. And I'm now trying to think about what goals I want to set next year in terms of posting, but also just in terms of my entire life, including health and sport and fitness, etc. And we'll see where that takes us. But I do just want to say a huge thank you if you have followed these 20 weeks. I have had so many conversations with so many people that have been following, and oh my god, I'm running out of memory. I just want to say thank you for all of your support.